Live from Chicago, this is News 3 Now's special coverage of the Democratic National Convention.
Right now, President Biden passing the torch to Vice President Kamala Harris for the 2024 presidential election. What he said on opening night of the Democratic National Convention.
Plus, multiple protesters are arrested in Chicago here at the convention. Why they say they're upset with Democrats. It's all ahead on News 3 Now at 10. Well, good evening once again from Chicago. We are live at the Nature Boardwalk here at the beautiful Lincoln Park Zoo for the Democratic National Convention. Night one of the event is now in the books, and it was a late one, but the Democrats certainly started it off with a bang.
Tonight, they are highlighting the achievements of the Biden-Harris ticket throughout the past 4 years. Now, President Biden was the keynote speaker, but it was his vice president and likely next presidential nominee who helped start things off. Kamala Harris made an unexpected entrance on stage during the convention's first night. There, she made a brief appearance and gave a short speech highlighting unity.
Let us fight for the ideals we hold dear, and let us always remember, when we fight, we win. God bless you. God bless you.
Vice President Harris also thanked President Biden for his leadership and service to the nation. Well, as for the current commander-in-chief, President Joe Biden delivered tonight's keynote speech, essentially passing the torch to his vice president.
And of course, President Biden dropped out of the race, clearing the way for a new nominee, Vice President Kamala Harris. It's a little bittersweet for the president. It was just a month ago. We were expecting this to be President Biden's big coronation week. And earlier tonight, the president was welcomed to a standing ovation following speeches from his wife, Dr. Jill Biden, and his daughter, Ashley Biden. During his speech, President Biden talked about preserving democracy, job growth, education, and his vice president, Kamala Harris, the record they've created over the last 4 years.
But she'll be a president our children can look up to. She'll be a president respected by world leaders because she already is. She'll be a president we can all be proud of. And she will be an historic president who puts her stamp on America's future.
And President Biden may have been the keynote speaker, but there were certainly plenty of other big names, some serious star power here on night one.
We have team coverage of tonight's events over at the United Center. So let's start with Susan Simon and Brady Mallory, who have a bird's eye view of everything happening inside the United Center.
Hi, Charlotte and Eric. Well, everybody is starting to file out now. It's been a later night than most people expected, but it's been a very memorable night. After last month's Republican National Convention, the Democrats had kind of a reboot of their presidential ticket, and as you said, tonight the torch was passed. When President Biden came out here, I timed it. He had a standing ovation for 5 minutes before he could say a single word, and he was clearly moved by it.
Yeah, there's a level of enthusiasm that a month ago was in question, as Democrats were not sure if he was the right nominee moving forward. A lot of questions about it, but tonight they showed him a lot of gratitude for his term, and the enthusiasm was also, I heard speakers talk about reproductive rights, enthusiasm for President Joe Biden, and also enthusiasm for Vice President and presidential nominee Kamala Harris.
And a lot of gratitude for Joe Biden making the decision that he made that allowed the Democrats to be where they are, to have that enthusiasm, and they hope to win this presidential race. There were some other big names in the Democratic Party that were here. We heard tonight from former Secretary of State and presidential nominee Hillary Clinton, as well as Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
And former Secretary Clinton also got a very long standing ovation and round of applause. It's interesting to think that in a different world, this would have been her last DNC as president had she would have won her first term and a second term, of course.
Yeah, that's very true. That's a very good point. And we're still, of course, waiting. There are more big speakers tomorrow. Former President Barack Obama and Bill Clinton. And then, of course, Vice President Kamala Harris and her VP nominee, Tim Walz.
And I believe we heard from some delegates this evening, so let's take a listen to one of them.
I think the purpose of the convention itself is to get that momentum usually started, but they didn't need to start it. It was hot and heavy.
And to recap what Susan said, of course, we are waiting for speeches from former President Barack Obama and former President Bill Clinton as we move through this week. And Harris will be back on Thursday to formally accept her party's nomination for president. And we noted that she was on stage tonight with President Biden after his speech tonight.
That was the official passing of the torch. She came on stage with President Biden and First Lady Jill Biden, and everybody had hugs, and it was a way to sort of put a stamp on a new era for the Democratic Party.
Yeah, and I think we will see more of that tomorrow, certainly as we move on through the week, and we will keep an eye on that for you. We can go back to
let's go to
Will.
Will, are you the only one left on the floor down there?
You haven't put your pajamas on yet?
Susan and Brady, there are a few stragglers here. As we mentioned, or as you guys mentioned, a lot of gratitude towards the current President Joe Biden as he made that step aside from his reelection bid to allow Kamala Harris to take the reins of the Democratic Party. You can see, I think, some signs kind of throughout the convention floor here saying "We love Joe" throughout. Now, as we've been tracking protests, though, we did notice one disturbance, somebody unfurling essentially a cloth banner that appeared to have a pro-Palestinian message, but we couldn't really see because it was quickly covered up by those "We love Joe" signs. We've also been keeping a close eye on Wisconsin's footprint here. Wisconsin is one of those key states that will decide the November election. And we heard from Wisconsin Lieutenant Governor Sarah Rodriguez earlier tonight. She was among a slate of elected officials talking about Democrats' investment in the future. Take a listen.
Thanks to the Biden-Harris administration, insulin is capped at $35 a month for seniors. And they negotiated down the prices of 10 more life-saving drugs like Eliquis and Jardiance for Americans on Medicare. Kamala will continue to take on Big Pharma and lower the cost of prescriptions for everyone.
So this is a line that we've heard a lot from Democrats, kind of touting what government has done on the campaign trail, especially including federal investments, things like rebuilding roads and bridges, especially in Wisconsin. Now, we may expect to hear more Wisconsin speakers later in the week. By my judgment, based on a travel itinerary that she posted earlier today, we might expect Senator Tammy Baldwin to make some kind of appearance on Thursday. We don't 100% know yet, so keep an eye out for that for sure. But for now, reporting from the convention floor, Will Keneally, News 3 Now.
Thank you very much, Will. And I have to say, we covered the RNC together. We were on Media Row. We were up on a perch like this, and it's been very nice to get to do both of these with you so far.
Right back at you.
Yeah.
Night one in the books and 3 to go. Eric and Charlotte, back to you.
All right, Susan, Brady, Will, thank you very much for your coverage. Protesters, they were marching and rallying outside the Democratic National Convention, and as is often the case with an incumbent party, the crowd a bit larger than what we saw last month in Milwaukee at the Republican National Convention.
Our Ellie LaLiberte joins us now with why protesters from Madison made the trip.
I caught up with a protester from Madison yesterday who says he's making the trip here to Chicago for those who have lost their lives in Gaza. Sounds outside the United Center.
It was about 2 to 3 weeks ago where it became clear that we needed to mobilize, that there were going to be tens of thousands of people hitting the streets in Chicago.
Joel Balavin is a Madison activist, making the trip to Chicago to have his voice heard, calling for a ceasefire in Gaza.
In the long run, what we really need is Palestinian liberation.
Liberation meaning complete Palestinian freedom. March on the DNC gathered thousands in Union Park, just half a mile away from the United Center, for a rally followed by a march. The message to the DNC, in part, earn our votes.
We want to create a clear message that people on the left are tired. I mean, just like beleaguered when it comes to voting for the lesser of two evils.
Protest voices echoing inside and out of the convention, even shaking and breaking through fencing. The war in Gaza continuing to take center stage.
It needs to be addressed properly. It needs to not be on the back burner. It needs to be a conversation that's open.
Attendees like former Wisconsin Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes saying it's part of the democratic process.
Given the fact that protest, is happening, I think it shows exactly, who we are as a party and our ability to allow for dissenting opinions.
But for protesters like Joel, it's a chance to speak directly to Democrats
who think that you shouldn't have to keep pleading and begging the DNC to do what's right in this case.
The city of Chicago and protest organizers have gone back and forth over permits prior to the demonstrations. Tensions arose over requests for a larger protest route. Reporting in the United Center, Ellie LaLiberte, News 3 Now.
Ellie, thank you. Now, tomorrow, Vice President Kamala Harris will return to Wisconsin for a campaign rally. She will be at Fiserv Forum in Milwaukee, of course, the site of the Republican National Convention in mid-July. The Harris campaign also confirming today that VP nominee, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, will join her there in Milwaukee. And it's not just Democrats who are campaigning in Wisconsin. Tomorrow, Republican nominee for Vice President, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, will be in Kenosha. He'll be holding a press conference on crime and safety. That'll be held at the Kenosha County Courthouse at noon. Political reporter Will Keneally will also have a one-on-one interview you won't want to miss with the Republican vice presidential nominee Vance, and you'll be able to see it on News 3 Now tomorrow on Live at 4. We turn now to weather. It's a little chilly here in Chicago. Temperatures cooler than normal this week. Let's go to meteorologist.
Yeah, right now we are seeing a little bit of a chilly condition outside, but during the day it has been very nice, and it will continue to be nice during the week. But looking at the current temperatures right now, we have fallen into the middle 60s now. We expect to fall to around 55 to 52 degrees later tonight. So it is going to be a little bit of a chilly night, and that's going to be the case for Chicago as well. Looking at the current temperatures across Dane County, a few areas in the county already close to those upper 50s, and there actually are a few parts of our area that are in the 50s at this hour, but still mostly in the 60s. Now, as we take a look at the current radar, we aren't seeing anything at the moment, and we're going to continue to see dry conditions for much of the upcoming week. Now, looking at the overnight forecast, we're going to see a forecasted low of around 53 degrees. It is going to be mostly clear, and it is going to be cool, so if you have any early morning plans, just be prepared that it will be a little chilly outside, but by the afternoon, it will be comfortable. I'll talk more in detail about that after the break.
With Sweeto Metal Roofing, you get quality metal roofs installed by the best in the business. A metal roof means no fading, no storm repairs, true sustainability, and lower energy bills.
Sweeto Metal Roofing, the last roof you'll ever need.
Shop from the largest selection of Chevy trucks and SUVs in Wisconsin at Bergstrom Chevrolet. All with Bergstrom's negotiation-free upfront pricing, including our exclusive 7-day price protection and money-back guarantees. Stop in or shop and purchase at BergstromChevrolet.com.
It's time for Good News, Madison.
The pedestrian mall is right here in the heart of downtown Madison on the 400, 500, 600 blocks of State Street. Over the course of the summer, we bring people down here to enjoy everything that's happening, the events that are currently being planned. People can check out flocktostate.com to see all of the events, and they're changing in real time from July all the way through October.
And that is Good News, Madison, brought to you by Don's Home Furniture.
Are you ready to make junk disappear?
I am so looking forward to this. We make junk disappear. All you have to do is point. Call 1-800-GOT-JUNK
or visit 1-800-GOT-JUNK.com.
We'll be there before you hang up the phone.
The burn pit at our base in Iraq had just shut down, but the poisons were around us everywhere. Back home, I got diagnosed with cancer, but the VA denied coverage to a lot of us who got sick. Tammy Baldwin knew that was wrong, and she wasn't going to let that stand. She worked with both parties to pass a law. So now, thousands of us exposed to toxic chemicals are getting the care that we deserve. It took a fight, but Tammy Baldwin, she's a hell of a fighter.
I'm Tammy Baldwin, and I approve this message.
We would never hit 12 drunk.
Clutch it up drunk? Not a chance. Do a stoppie drunk? We would never drift drunk. So you should never drive drunk. Drive sober or get pulled over.
Looking for the best value in contact lenses? At Stanton Optical, score an annual supply of AccuView Oasis plus a free contact lens eye exam for only $189. The numbers are in. At Stanton Optical, you save a whopping $280. You're not going to find a better deal with the other guys. Now that's what I call value. Book your eye exam today. Stanton Optical. Easy's our thing.
I am proud of you.
Choosing to celebrate the special moments. For those recovering from stroke, injury, or illness, choosing Encompass Health for inpatient rehabilitation may just be their most important choice.
You're watching News 3 Now at 10. Moving forward.
Welcome back. Chicago and political conventions are pretty much synonymous at this point. The Windy City, in fact, has hosted 26 political conventions, including 1/5 of all Democratic national conventions ever held. And they've been often making history here. The first ever political convention in Chicago goes all the way back to 1860 when Abraham Lincoln was selected as the Republican nominee for President of the United States.
Hard to believe, but the convention most of you are probably thinking of, well, that happened 100 years later in 1968. Our Braden Ross sat down with historian and author of Chicago 68, David Farber, to see how these historical parallels are playing out.
You're the historian who quite literally wrote the book on 1968. Is this year giving you deja vu?
Well, I don't think it's an exact twin to what happened in 1968, but for sure there's echoes of 1968 in 2024.
Those echoes start here.
Finally, my fellow Americans, let me say this.
In March 1968, President Lyndon B. Johnson speaks to the American people from the Oval Office.
And I will not accept the nomination of my party for another term as your president.
Nearly 60 years later, so does President Joe Biden.
There's also a time and a place for new voices, fresh voices, yes, younger voices.
In both years, the sitting president decides not to run for re-election amid growing pressure from Democratic Party leaders.
In Johnson's case, it was the war in Vietnam. Biden came under pressure for slightly different reasons. The party wasn't sure he could really carry the weight that was necessary to battle Donald Trump.
In both years, the comparatively more progressive sitting vice president ends up at the top of the Democratic ticket.
Hubert Humphrey was a much more progressive politician than Lyndon Johnson was. Harris, who's clearly a more progressive candidate in many ways than Joe Biden. The Republicans will try to hammer that home. The California progressive. Nobody talked about the Minnesota progressive back in 1968.
And the parallels don't stop there.
Senator Kennedy has been shot.
In 1968, just 2 months after civil rights icon Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy is shot on the campaign trail. This year, that shot killed Kennedy. Trump survived. And another echo, a foreign policy issue is once again at the center of tensions within the Democratic Party.
The fervor that anti-war protests brought to Chicago in 1968, those are the indelible images that people still have and that you can view on YouTube, you can still see today.
They have donned their gas masks.
The police came down very hard on those protesting the war in Vietnam. So, of course, in 2024, the question is, will the issue of the war in Gaza with Israel result in similar protests?
It's pretty safe to say the Democrats are hoping the parallels end. In 1968, Republican Richard Nixon took the White House.
The turmoil in the 60s was of a different magnitude, but I think politically, both conventions speak to some of the same issues. Every convention, every party convention, the leadership hopes that coming out of it, they'll get a bounce.
Reporting in Madison, Braden Ross, News 3 Now.
1968 was also a big year for Wisconsin. The Packers won the Super Bowl for the second year in a row.
Well, as we said, a cool start to the week, but temperatures will be warming back up. Let's check back in with Jacob for the complete First Warn forecast. Jacob?
Thanks, Eric. Here's a look at the 3 things you need to know. We are going to see comfortable temperatures continue through the work week, but they will begin to warm back up by the time we get to the weekend. But in both situations, we are expecting very dry conditions, really, for the foreseeable future. Now, looking specifically at the rain chances over the next 7 days, we are going to remain mainly dry every day and night. A few sprinkles and maybe some isolated showers for Thursday night into Friday and during the day over the weekend. But beyond that, we're not going to see much. And total precipitation over the next 7 days, we are going to struggle to even reach 1/10 of an inch of rainfall. So it is going to be a very very dry period in Wisconsin and also Chicago for those of you that want to attend the DNC. Now looking at the forecast going forward, we are going to see a cool night. As I mentioned earlier, we'll have lows dropping into the lower 50s. It is going to be a mostly clear night. Winds not too much of a factor, but during the day tomorrow it is going to be very nice. Highs will be in the 70s, partly sunny to mostly sunny skies. A few northern counties may actually only see highs in the upper 60s, so it's going to be a day a little bit below average, but still very comfortable. Now, as we look at the muggy meter, though, although it's going to remain comfortable over the next several days, notice as we get towards the weekend, by the time we get to Friday, we are going to start to see those humidity values rise. So we are going to be in that humid level where dew points could be around 70, and actual temperatures will likely be in the 80s, if not lower 90s for a few locations. But it is going to remain mostly dry, a little bit of a better chance of rain as we head towards the weekend, but if it does rain, it will likely be very brief, not going to be a huge issue. But notice those temperatures for the beginning of next week. Highs will be in the upper 80s, possibly lower 90s for a few locations, and with those humidity values increasing, we likely will see the heat index values increase as well, up to the possible 90 to 95 degree level, but probably not exceeding that. Now, the good news is that temperatures are going to slowly decrease after around Monday, and then we could see temperatures, at least highs, back in the 70s by the time we get to Thursday, but still pretty far out. A lot can change between now and then, so enjoy the nice weather this week, and even over the weekend, you know, it's not going to be brutal.
And coming up in sports, Wisconsin volleyball is closing in on their season opener, while the Badgers say they can't wait to hit the field house. That's next on News 3 Now.
News 3 Now First Warn Weather is brought to you by Lazy Boy Home Furnishings and Decor.
Discover a shopping and design experience as comfortable as the furniture. Lazy Boy Home Furnishings and Decor. Schedule your free design consultation today.
Kamala Harris has spent decades fighting violent crime. As a border state prosecutor, she took on drug cartels and jailed gang members for smuggling weapons and drugs across the border. As vice president, she backed the toughest border control bill in decades. And as president, she will hire thousands more border agents and crack down on fentanyl and human trafficking. Fixing the border is tough. So is Kamala Harris.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
The Make It Ford Summer Sales Event is on. Amazing offers and a great selection of Ford vehicles, like the Built Wild Bronco family, with a deal you just can't miss. Your biggest adventures are waiting. So make it Ford. Make it yours. Make it now. I want that. Make it a lease on a new Ford Bronco Sport for $299 a month for 36 months. Only at your local Wisconsin Ford dealer.
This is a hallway. Doesn't evoke much feeling. But to those facing cancer or a complex condition, it feels like relief. Because all the doctors, treatments, and technology you've been fighting to find, they're all right here, under one roof, connected by hallways instead of highways. East Park Medical Center, coming soon. UW Health, remarkable.
Imagine trying to take on one of the big car companies. It's not easy. Yet this year, one local law firm finalized the largest compensatory verdict in state history against an automaker, over $38 million. And it was no fluke. That same firm has been holding big car companies accountable for faulty designs that cause injury for over 50 years. Because Wisconsinites know who to call when it's a must-win scenario. They call Habish, Habish & Rotier. National reputation, hometown service.
Millions of small businesses choose Spectrum Business, and each one is unique. But there is something you all have in common. You're tough, made to take it all on. That's why Spectrum Business is made to work, made to help you power through it all with reliable connectivity. That means fast internet, business phone, TV, and mobile solutions. Small businesses are made to keep on going, which is why Spectrum Business is made to work. Get Spectrum One for Business, one advanced connectivity solution for only $49.99 per month.
Sanctuary cities protect illegal immigrant criminals from being deported, like an illegal immigrant arrested for battery in Madison. Instead of being deported, he was released and went on to assault several more women, including a 13-year-old girl. Senator Tammy Baldwin voted 9 times to support federal funding for sanctuary cities that release dangerous illegals back onto our streets. And Baldwin voted for amnesty for 11 million illegals, including criminals. Tell Senator Baldwin, stop protecting illegal immigrants and start protecting Wisconsin.
Kelly Sheffield is named as captains for the upcoming season. Sarah Franklin, Devin Robinson, and Yulia Orzel have been picked to lead Badger volleyball, and their first opportunity is less than 24 hours away. Wisconsin hosts Bradley in an exhibition match on Tuesday night, and after 2 weeks of two-a-days, it's nice to face somebody in a different color uniform, and for some, get their first taste of a rockin' field house.
My excitement level never really changes. It's always at pretty much 100%. So this has been a crazy 6-7 months for me, and it's gonna get even crazier the next 4 or 5. So yeah, excitement level is gonna stay at 100.
Just being able to step foot in this gym where like so many just legends have come out of, and being able to play under them and like playing for the past people who have been here, it motivates me.
Meanwhile, the preseason poll is out, and as expected, the Badgers enter their 2024 campaign near the top. Wisconsin sits third behind only Texas and Nebraska. Kelly Sheffield's squad is one of 7 Big Ten teams in the top 25, and they have 10 ranked teams on their schedule. But how about this for their first 3 matches to start the year? Number 6 Louisville, number 1 Texas, and number 5 Stanford. Well, speaking of tough, how about Sunday's Packer preseason game? Now, yes, Green Bay rested 31 players in the game, including nearly all of their starters, so it's understandable that they lost in a landslide. But what Matt LaFleur can't stomach, the way in which his team lost. They didn't show any grit, which was illustrated on the scoreboard. And as they move forward, the Packer head coach hopes they'll use this loss as a learning experience.
I think it's a good lesson for our guys in terms of it doesn't matter who's out there. If you don't put your best foot forward each and every time you go out on that field, these things happen to you. So, you know, we're going to have to regroup, take a long, hard look in the mirror, and we got to get better, and we need that urgency from everybody.
And fresh off a season where he tied for a nation's best 7 interceptions, Ricardo Hallman was named a second-team preseason All-American by the AP. Now, to go along with those 7 picks, the Badger junior tallied 34 tackles, 3 TFLs, and 5 pass deflections last year, which helped him earn third-team All-American honors. The countdown to kickoff is down to 11 days. We're back after this.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
The alarming spike in inflation soaring to its highest level in nearly 40 years.
That is called Bidenomics.
Gas prices rose again today, reaching a new all-time high.
We're still dealing with inflation, and we've got super high interest rates at the same time.
Bidenomics is working.
2/3 of Americans are just struggling to make ends meet.
And this comes after Friday's jobs report showing a spike in unemployment.
And we are very proud of Bidenomics.
Happy Take and Bake Tuesday!
Every Tuesday at Papa Murphy's, you can get any large pizza for just $12, which makes Tuesday the best day to bring home all your favorites.
We might have too many favorites.
Order now at papamurphys.com.
Chevy lets you begin every day fully charged, so you can go farther. And so can your money. Tow with confidence. Plus, stay connected with available OnStar technology. For summer adventures, Chevy's got you. Get 1.9% financing on this 2024 Silverado when you finance with GM Financial. Or get $5,750 total value when you trade in an eligible vehicle. Chevrolet, the #1 selling brand in Wisconsin.
Save big money with these hot deals at Menards. All prices after 11% rebate. These paint roller covers are just $1.99 each. Men's performance work gloves only $2.99 per pair. 75-count disinfecting wipes are only $3.54. Bacon wrap, stuffed chicken breasts, only $5.99. These hot deals won't last long. Hurry in before time runs out. Sign up for Menards emails to get more hot deals, plus the weekly flyer right to your inbox.
Save big money at Menards.
Introducing TPC Wisconsin, Madison's elite golf club with worldwide privileges, plus extraordinary amenities to keep you active year-round, to keep you fit, and well-equipped for the course, to keep you connected to what matters the most. Play where the pros play with an exclusive membership at TPC Wisconsin. Make it your club today.
Discover more ways to save on appliances at our Brothers Main bargain rooms. Get discounts on top brand closeouts, returns, and scratch and dents. Minor dings, major savings. Plus, you can take your purchase home today. Feel like family. Brothers Main.
I became a nurse to make lives better. Today, that's hard to do because of the open border. I've seen firsthand the damage that Kamala Harris caused as our country's borders are. Hospitals everywhere are overwhelmed, and American patients are paying the price. My patients are covering the healthcare costs for people here illegally while their own care is jeopardized. Kamala Harris is weak and dangerous.
Preserve America PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Need help with a consumer issue? Contact News 3 Now's Call for Action.
Well, day one of the Democratic National Convention is complete for the day. Our ride is here, as you can hear. We heard from a whole host of people today, including Vice President Kamala Harris and President Biden. And tomorrow, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz will be heading to Milwaukee, and we'll be hearing here from the Obamas.
That's right. It's their town, right?
Mm-hmm.
So hear from them. We'll also have that exclusive interview with J.D. Vance. That's all the time we have now. Thanks for staying up late with us. This late edition of News 3 Now at 10.
Have a great